Good evening, this is the TTC Dungeons & Dragons News Roundup. I'm the _Twig, and I like analysing game rules. It is 10 PM BST on Friday the 21st of June. Our headline story tonight. 2 new spells have been revealed. Yolan's Regal Presence is a 5th level spell, which is on the Oath of Glory Paladin's spell list. Whilst little is known about this spell, the effects include causing creatures to fall to their knees and take psychic damage. Tasha's Bubbling Cauldron is a 6th level spell available to the Warlock and the Wizard. It allows the caster to effectively create a number of common or uncommon potions equal to their spellcasting modifier. All of these must be the same type of potion, and they disappear when the spell is cast again. Some of the notable potions which can be created using this spell are the Potion of Resistance, the Potion of Hill Giant Strength, the Potion of Fire Breathing, the Potion of Growth, and the Potion of Greater Healing. A character with +5 spellcasting modifier choosing the Potion of Greater Healing is expected to heal 70 hit points on average, across 5 doses, which is equivalent to the 2014 Heal spell. Due to changes in the Player's Handbook rules, these potions are also now a bonus action to drink. This is expected to be an excellent downtime spell for the Wizard, but likely has a large opportunity cost for the Warlock due to being a Mystic Arcana. New information about the monsters in the Player's Handbook and Monster Manual has been revealed. There are over 500 monsters in the Monster Manual, of which over 75 are brand new. These include a weaker and a stronger vampire variant, and new high CR creatures for many creature types, including the Construct, Ooze, Fey, and Elemental. There are also additional NPC stat blocks, such as the Performer and the Pirate. In the Player's Handbook, there are more creatures than before, including stat blocks for all mounts. However, there are no high CR beasts for high-level moon druids to wild shape into. The full stat block for the new Sphinx of Wonder has been revealed, which shows a condensed and user-friendly design. Of particular note, the reaction now shows a separate trigger and response, and the rend attack states that it is a melee attack roll, not a melee weapon attack. This suggests that the phrase weapon attack may have been removed. One British critic of the weapon attack believes that this is a good thing, as it was unnecessarily confusing in the 2014 rules. When creating a character, players assign them a background and a species, previously called a race. The Player's Handbook now contains 16 backgrounds, which give players the option to assign +1 and +2 to 2 of 3 different stats, or +1 to all 3. The Player's Handbook also now has 10 species, including the newly revealed Aasimar. The Aasimar is now able to choose their Celestial Revelation every time they use this feature. There are also changes to the Orc, which can now use its Adrenaline Rush feature once per short rest instead of once per long rest, and its Relentless Endurance feature has been buffed to provide it with more than 1 HP when it would drop to 0. Additionally, both the Orc and the Dwarf now have 120 feet of dark vision. On that note, helping you find your way through the darkness, here's the _Twig with the weather. Classes. Thanks, Twig, and it's funny that you would mention darkness, because there's some shadowy things going on with the new Warlock. The Great Old One's spell list has been changed, so they now get Summon Aberration at 7th level instead of Ebbard's Black Tentacles. In the playtest, the Gulok would get Summon Aberration as part of their 14th level Create Thrall feature, but this has been dropped down a bit and put onto the spell list. There have also been some slight wording changes to the Clairvoyant Combatant feature, meaning that it now recharges when you spend a Pact Magic slot. No more multi-classing to get extra uses anymore. Finally, in the Warlock, the Sphinx of Wonder that you mentioned earlier is now a Pact of the Chain option, and there may be more new options coming as well. Moving over to the Paladin, there's been a few changes since the playtest. Their fighting style feature now gives them the option to take any fighting style, not just their curated list, or they can forgo it entirely to learn some cleric cantrips instead. There is also a change to the new Paladin Smite feature, in that it now only gives the Divine Smite spell. All of the others you need to prepare again. Several of the Paladin subclasses got some pretty important buffs actually, including the Oath of Devotion, which can now use Sacred Weapon for free as part of their attack action. The Glory Paladin's Aura of Alacrity also now triggers when a character enters the aura. They don't just have to start in it anymore. And as you mentioned, Twig, the Glory spell list now has the new Yolan's Regal Presence spell. Just like the Devotion Paladin, the Vengeance Paladin can now use its Vow of Enmity as part of the attack action. And there was a slight flub in Jeremy Crawford's explanation of Avenging Angel. He said in his video that it lasts for an hour, but it is actually only 10 minutes. I mentioned fighting styles in the Paladin, so it's probably best that I cover the fighter next then, because there are new ones. Blind fighting, interception, thrown weapon fighting, and unarmoured fighting are all in the PHB. Additionally, protection has received a buff, although there's no news yet on what that is. Back in, I think it was around September last year, the fighter had a feature at level 9 called Master of Armaments, which allowed them to swap out one of their weapon masteries. That has now been replaced by Tactical Master, which gives all weapons their innate mastery as well as push, sap and slow, and you can choose any one of those 4 every time you make an attack. This is a big simplification and a tactical buff, although personally I can't say I'm too fond of it, simply because it means that certain weapons like the pike are just objectively worse than others like the glaive, simply because they already had one of those 3 masteries. Going over to its subclasses, Champion's Remarkable Athlete has had its improved jump swapped out for the ability to move up to half their speed without opportunity attacks after they roll a critical hit. That has a bit of redundancy with the fighter's new tactical shift, but it's definitely nice. There's a couple of changes in the Eldritch Knight, with the primary one being there are absolutely no restrictions on spell schools at all. In the playtest they were restricted at 3rd level only, which was very odd. Their improved war magic has had a slight nerf though, meaning that when you give up 2 of your attacks to cast a spell, it now has to be a 1st or 2nd level spell. Finally, the Battle Master has had a few manoeuvre options imported from Tasha's, including Ambush, Bait and Switch, Commanding Presence, and Tactical Assessment. That's all from me, but there will be more about classes later in the show. Back to you, Twig. Thank you for those updates, _Twig. Feats are classless character options which can be taken when characters reach certain levels. The new player's handbook has been reported to have 75 feats, split across origin feats, which are given by backgrounds, normal feats, and epic boon feats, which can only be taken when a character reaches 19th level in a single class. This 75 also includes fighting styles and the ability score improvement, which are now considered feats as well. It has been discovered that if the 6 fighting styles, 42 feats, ASI, and 26 epic boons from the 2014 Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide are added up, this equals exactly 75. This means that if new feats, such as some of those from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, have been included, then some old feats must have been cut. One British player is hoping that these cuts have been made from the epic boons rather than the standard feats. The epic boon of Night Spirit has received a small buff, meaning that it now gives resistance to force damage as well, and the epic boon of Combat Prowess allows a player to decide that they hit with a melee attack once per turn instead of once per combat. In other news, the Dungeon Master's Guide has been reported to include 5 short adventures, as well as a full setting rundown for Greyhawk. Most Dungeon Masters, including one from Britain, were expecting to see the Forgotten Realms in this book. However, according to experts in the Twigs Academy Patreon exclusive Discord, whilst the Forgotten Realms has deep, complicated lore, Greyhawk is built for the table first, meaning that it is more suitable for new players and Dungeon Masters. These adventures and setting descriptions also include locations such as the Silver Dragon Inn, and these have some bolded text on character names, suggesting that there are creature stat blocks which they reference. Also in the Dungeon Master's Guide, a lore glossary which explains must-know terms such as mithril and adamantine, a new hazard called Fireball Fungus, more magic items including additional common items, and some nostalgic items such as those used by the kids in the 1983 Dungeons & Dragons cartoon. There are also new tracking sheets in the Dungeon Master's Guide, which allow Dungeon Masters to easily record details of NPCs, settlements, bastions, magic items, some important player character information, and there is also a session planner. The Dungeon Master's Guide also contains updated crafting rules, and these have been partially replicated in the Player's Handbook, allowing players to craft simple potions and scrolls. Other new rules in the Player's Handbook include a new area of effect called Emanation, which describes features like the Paladin's Aura of Protection, rules for making a character at 3rd level or higher, and the Bloodied condition, which has unknown effects but likely describes a character below half of their maximum hit points. Heroic Inspiration, previously just called Inspiration, can now be spent on a reroll of a die or dice. This can be used on advantage to reroll both dice, on a damage roll if the player is unlucky, on a Wild Magic Surge if the result is unfavourable, or on any other roll that a player might make. The rules from the new 2024 books replace those from 2014, so a character cannot pick and choose between old and new players' handbooks. However, there is support for bringing an old character or other materials forwards into a new game, including sidebars explaining what needs adapting. We now go to _Twig, who is in the field standing in front of a picture of the Wizard of the Coast head office in Seattle. Thanks, Twig. Mitzi here sure is big. Huge and unexpected news. According to some very blurry screenshots, it looks like the Aberrant Sorcerer has retained its Psionic Spells feature. although they can no longer swap them out for other enchantment or divination spells. You can just about make out the words Mind Sliver, which means that it must be included in the PHB. On the subject of psionics, the Soul Knife Rogue now gets to use the Vex weapon mastery on their psychic blades, and starting from 9th level, the assassin can now use steady aim and still move. Just like the Eldritch Knight, the Arcane Trickster now has no spell school restrictions whatsoever. The Barbarian's Brutal Strike has been clarified somewhat, and it can now be used by foregoing any source of advantage. You don't have to use Reckless Attack, you could shove an enemy prone instead, although you can't use Brutal Strike if you have both advantage and disadvantage. It's a bit like Sneak Attack in that sense. Right now, we're not clear on whether Brutal Strike can be used multiple times per turn or even on a reaction. The posts on D&D Beyond have been a little bit inconsistent about stipulations like that. There's a lot of other changes in the Barbarian though, including the fact that the World Tree's branches of the tree seems to have lost the clause which states that there must be a surface to support the creature you teleport. That means that you might be able to teleport enemies off of cliffs. On the other hand though, travel along the tree's big group teleport has been nerfed to a range of 150 feet, instead of the old 500. Not everyone will consider this new, but Twig, I believe that you are of the opinion that Berserker's Frenzy could be used multiple times per turn if every attack was against the same creature. That's been confirmed incorrect, it is a once per turn feature. The Wild Heart Barbarian, previously called Totem Warrior, has had some big changes. The choices that you make at 3rd and 14th level can now be changed every time you use Rage, and the 10th level one can be changed every long rest. That means that if you want the resistances from Bear in one fight, but the team support from Wolf in another, you can make that decision there and then. We also know that the function of the Bear has changed, and that it is more powerful than in Playtest 7, but less powerful than in 2014. And that at 6th level your options are Salmon, which gives you a swim speed, Panther, which gives you a climb speed, and Owl, which gets dark vision. On the Zealot, Warrior of the Gods now gives them a pool of dice to heal themselves, and works a lot like Second Wind. And Fanatical Focus's reroll has been buffed to also give you a small bonus to the roll, although apparently this is less than what the fighter gets from the new Indomitable. Their Capstone, which is now called Rage of the Gods, has been entirely reworked, and is now a bonus action which gives you a fly speed, some extra resistances, and lets you use a reaction to prevent an ally from dying. The last class that we've got details about is the Bard, specifically in relation to the College of Dance. Apparently they now get advantage on performance checks which involve dancing, and a couple of their features have been shuffled around. Irresistible Dance has been removed, League and Evasion has been pushed to 14, and Inspiring Movement has gone up to 6. There's a bit of confusion about how Inspiring Movement now functions, because in Ginny D's video, she suggested that it activates when an enemy enters your melee range, but in her screenshots you can clearly see that it says ends within 5. Whether that's within 5 feet of you, or of an ally like it was in the playtest, is unclear. Whilst this is a pretty obvious nerf to the Dance Bard, I think that there's a general consensus among the TCC crew that it still feels like a strong and fun subclass with really nice progression. We like it a lot. Also, like all spellcasting classes, the Bard spell list is now right in the Bard section. You don't need to go to the back of the book anymore. And it also includes some additional details, such as the spell school, if it's a ritual, and whether it requires any concentration or any required components. Remember that we're only covering the breaking news here, so if you're not up to date on the playtest or you want more details on any of the class features that we didn't cover, there's a bunch of other videos on the channel that you can watch instead. That's everything I know for now, so back to you in the studio, Twig. Another mistake was identified in the Dungeons & Dragons video about weapon masteries, where Jeremy Crawford claimed that a dagger's Nick weapon mastery would allow a character to make 3 attacks in a single turn at 1st level. This was later confirmed to be false. Similarly, an article on D&D Beyond suggested that the Cleave weapon mastery was no longer once per turn. This has also been confirmed not true. The D&D Beyond Marketplace posting of the new Dungeon Master screen has revealed several new rules, such as suggested DCs for foraging or navigating in different terrains, and the distance from which a character can hear things of different audible levels. The new character sheet has also been revealed, and it importantly has a lot more space for class features, species traits, and feats. Our final story for tonight. A large amount of art has been revealed, and it has been confirmed that it is of a number of different styles, mediums, and disciplines, although a significant amount does appear to be digital art. Some of the known artists are John Grello and Michael Broussard, and a company called Polar Engine is also involved. There is also a high likelihood that the line art in the character creation chapter has been drawn by Richard Witters. What do you think? What is your opinion? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for future news and updates. Please share this with your friends to ensure that they remain up to date with the latest news. TTC is supported by Patreon members. If you want early access to these reports, daily discussions regarding the new rules releases, and a group of people spending 15 minutes trying to work out what this word is, please consider signing up. We would also like to specifically thank SK for his considerable efforts and knowledge of the playtest and 2024 rules. From the TTC Dungeons & Dragons News Roundup, I've been D_Twig. Good night. Or, as I'm supposed to say. Bye.